All right. Good morning. We are rolling. Cameras are rolling.
Good morning, Rav.
Good morning. Okay. All right. So it's good to see everybody again, and we are going to begin in Reish Samach Vav Sif Yud Gimel. There are new sheets on the table for those who are using the sheets. We are at the very, very, very end of what was quite a lengthy siman about situations that occur.
There's no Rosh Hashanah on this one.
What was that?
Rosh Hashanah.
At the very, very top of that first page.
Okay.
Yes, it catches the tail end. So, we talked about every scenario that was less than ideal that happened on Shabbat and how to deal with it when you're caught on the street, you have belongings with you that are valuable that you're not just going to simply part ways with. You're going to make sure. Here, can you walk a little bit here? Okay. Okay, Sandra's going over there. Okay. So that is that leads us to our last case. Reish Samach Vav Sif Katan Yud Gimel. Here we go. There are new sheets, by the way, in the. Okay. He says here, the Shulchan Aruch does, Matza Arnike be Shabbos Osur Litlo. Let's say you find a wallet. You're walking on Shabbos. Okay, you're listening to this day. This is very important. Okay, you're walking along on Shabbos and you find a wallet. Okay, now, obviously it's not your wallet. That's a very different scenario. It's someone else's wallet. You find a wallet. Presumably it's got money in it. Maybe it has credit cards in it. They didn't have those in those days. I'm sure there was money or coins. Yes, it's on Shabbos.
It is to a whole different level if you're worried about credit cards. Then you're going to become a thief. Yeah, right.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Credit cards have a name on it, so by the way, it's got an identification. Here. Let's good. It's a good point, by the way. BJ makes. I was just saying it, but there's no identification here on this thing. It's cash. It's a wallet. Maybe the arnike, as the actual receptacle that holds this, there might be ways to return the object, which is actually not inconsequential to this discussion. So the halacha is it's osur litlo. It is, yes, Simeon, go ahead.
First of all, you don't know if there's a semen in the wallet as to who owns it without picking it up.
Yeah.
Second of all, you have an
100%
raisa of Hashavas Aveda.
That's correct. Exactly. We're gonna delve into Hashavas Aveda in just a moment here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna come up. So I'm not allowed to pick this up. I'm not allowed to take the wallet. Af al pi sheyareh pei yikodmenu acher. Even though you're worried that someone else will get it first. So with Shabbos, there's a $20 bill, whatever. I don't know how you can identify it. It says it's in the arnike. There's an arnike, but you're assuming it was a money holding receptacle. It wasn't just a purse per se, which may carry other things too, and sometimes actually doesn't carry cash. This has clearly got money in it, and I'm not allowed to take it, even though I'm worried somebody else might come along, might not be Jewish, because for them they don't have to worry about the laws of Shabbos. And they can take it. Now, this differs. Now, why is this here? Because it differs from the other laws. The other laws that we talked about was when it was my stuff, and I already owned it before Shabbos started. Chazal allowed me to do certain things that otherwise I would not be able to do. I was able to. They set aside certain derabbanans because they were worried that if they didn't permit that we would violate biblical laws. Here, even though there's a yetzer hara to take it, it's a lot. I could presume maybe there's a lot of money. Maybe I even see the $1,000 bill sticking out from the edge of the wall. I'm not allowed to take it. It could be $10,000. I'm not allowed to take it. Why not? So here, let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah. Sif Katan Lamed Ches. Afilu im yamod tachtav v'lo yavir arba amos. By the way, what am I not even allowed to do? I'm not allowed to even stand under it, meaning to pick it up. Okay. And I make, I don't want to say I'm making a netter here, but I'm not going to move the rest of the Shabbos. I want this $1,000, but I don't want to walk 4 amos within the Rosh Hashanah carrying something that says that's a big sin. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to, we have a separate problem here, which is even moving the item. Forget Abdallah Amos, moving the item at all, just to pick it up, is a violation of the laws of muktzah.
So we're talking about specifically money and not a valuable item like a Rolex watch or something.
Yes, here it's Arnike is a money holding wallet. Yes, a money receptacle. Yes. So, by the way, in my little notes here, extra we have it here. It's number 48. In my extra notes here, it quotes from later on in Hilchot Shabbat from the Shulchan Aruch, and that if it's a davar she'eino muktzah, shemuter lahagbio, which is permissible to lift up. Ha'imuter litlo lizakosbo b'Shabbos. It becomes a question of, can I be zocha on something on Shabbos that I didn't own when Shabbos starts? A separate question. Can I merit, becoming the owner of something when I didn't own it at the beginning of Shabbos? That's a separate question, which we'll get to later in Hilchot Shabbos. But if it's not muktzah, it's a Rolex watch. From the perspective of picking it up, a watch is not muktzah. It becomes a separate question of, can I be zocha? And it's a whole question also about Shabbat Laveda. A watch is not as simple as to just say, oh, it's like money, It's not what, Items become more difficult because there are unique simanim. Cash or coins, because everyone has cash and coins, become a very obvious category where not 100% of the time, but often you can simply just pick it up and claim it as your own.
Sure. You also have a question. Well, I guess you could wear the watch, right?
Yeah, you could wear the watch, where you wouldn't even be carrying a dollar amos because I'm wearing it as jewelry. Yeah. So he continues here in the Mishnah Rule, "V'lo shayach lahatir mishum pseida," and the rabbis did not allow here in this situation some way of moving it because of loss. What do you mean? I see the $10,000 are sticking out of the wallet. This is a huge loss to me.
It's not your.
Exactly. Kevan shadayin lo zachaba. Why is it not allowed? Because I never had it in the first place. Right? Because of Magen Avram, the Magen Avram writes, I'm not even allowed to go over to a non-Jew, and this is consistent with the rule I've tried to tell everybody, even though we've literally outlined every exception in every shir, which is that I'm not allowed, if I can't do it, I generally speaking cannot go over to a non-Jew and say, can you do this for me? I'm not allowed to hear the Magen Avram says do that because there is absolutely no permission for this. I never owned the money. The fact that I happened to stumble across it is the mere coincidence, and I have life needs to go on. It's not like I'm losing. Losing is when I had and I don't, and then I have to throw it away, or I can't. Here it would have been a potential gain, but the Chazal didn't allow for such a situation.
Yeah, when we study food and something, we talk about relaxing the Rabbanan restrictions, right? Because you might come to
correct.
But the underpinning of that was that there would be real loss involved.
Correct.
Right, and it's interesting that we discuss it here and not there, where it's just the motivation for really allowing this relaxation, right?
Correct.
Because otherwise, why would you do it, right?
Right. Correct. And here, even though you might feel that a person may experience here the loss. Oh, you mean $1,000? That's not insignificant.
He's doing right, and all of a sudden you just go and say, "Oh my God, I lost all that money." No, you didn't.
Right.
Your gain.
Correct.
You should be happy.
Right. Exactly. You don't have quite as much a gain as you could have if you had waited. Right. So here he writes.
But Rob, you gave an example of the Rolex. Let's suppose the Rolex has an engraved thing on the back of the watch.
Yeah.
So the person that lost it didn't go through Yeyush, and he'd like to have it back.
Correct.
We still don't have, and you can't pick it up even with the classic Shinui from what you're teaching now.
Yes, that's correct.
So what do we do with the obligation that a Jew has about Hashavas Aveda? Why is that? Why is that muktzah, even if it's not a wallet? Why is a watch which I wear on Shabbos? It is not muktzah to me on Shabbos. How can I? How can I just walk away from it?
So first of all, the case of the watch is different. The watch is not muktzah. The watch is not muktzah. It just isn't. People wear watches. I wear a watch on Shabbos. So even if it's found somewhere else, it's not in the category of muktzah. And in fact, if it was a watch that you found, then yes, then the laws of Hashavas Aveda are going to kick in, and then you have to start to look for simanim. You're going to probably have to do achraza, meaning like an announcement somewhere. If you find a lost anything in the pathway, that the people are walking to shul, you find it in Carpenter's Pond. I once found something, by the way, on the pathway in Carpenter's Pond, some sort of piece of jewelry. And it was obvious to me that it was on a Saturday. It's obvious to me now. It's not. I can't know this 100%. But the most likely scenario is that a Jew walking to the Young Israel of Scarsdale lost this. And I brought it here, and they made a chazan. I don't remember what happened, if anybody claimed it. But then there are other laws that are going to come into play. The case here is really one of cash or coins. An arnike it holds cash and coins. Now, you might, as I said earlier, you might be able to say, well, maybe there's nothing unique about it. Maybe there is something unique about the holder of this money, and that is possible, and one has to analyze that. But even if so, I'm trying to find this here. So I have here in my extra notes. So you don't have this. Nobody has. You have actually number 50. So there's a discussion here about Hashavas Aveda. If there is some potential that I could figure out who owns.
There's a name there.
Right.
You're gonna be able to find
So then it's a very different scenario, right? If it's a wallet, the way most of our wallets are today. I carry my wallet. Inside my wallet is my driver's license. As BJ pointed out before, I also have credit cards. They have my name. Right? And any wallet that you find today, you know who the owner is because of credit cards, right? Even if they didn't carry their driver's license in there. Credit cards are a giveaway. So then, yes, you have an obligation to return the item. There, it is clear as daylight that there's a name. It is actually not impossible in our day and age to try to look up, where a person lives. So take a look. I don't take a look. Just listen, I guess, for the moment here about the Indian here of Hashavas Aveda. So it's number 50, Tom. So he says, the Gra writes in the name of the Mordechai, Isser Muktzah Nidchem Bnei Mitzvah. That the Isser of Muktzah would be set aside for the prohibition of Muktzah, perhaps. Right? Exactly. But practically speaking, the Minchas Yitzchak in his Shelos and Shuvos writes, even though the Mishnah Berurah didn't say this way or that way, about the Hashavas Aveda issue with the versus Muktzah, he didn't really decide. Even if there's a mitzvah here perhaps involved with Hashavas Aveda, we don't pick it up. And that's why no one quotes this Mordechai. The Mordechai did think that you should pick it up. If there's a mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda that I could identify, I should pick it up, even though I'm violating Muktzah, but I am fulfilling the positive mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda. Uvetama Adafar, why? What's the reason? She'ein Isser Muktzah Nidchem Mipnei Mitzvahs Hashavas Aveda. So the Chasam Sofer writes, She'ein Isser Nidchem Mipnei Hefseid Mamon. V'af im eino Asr Elo Midrabanan. V'rak im hayamuter lebalim atzmo lahagvia chayfetz Muktzah she'avad lo, hayamuter lo, af lahagvia chayfetz avur acher. Why? Because if the owner themselves, presuming that it's a Jew who owns the item that was lost, if that item was muktzah, it's cash. And let's say we could figure out who owns it. Well, you know what? Yankala, who lost it, who was the owner, it says on the inside, Yankala and the driver's license, Yankala also can't pick it up on Shabbos. It's muktzah for him. Maybe Yankala needs to talk to his non-Jewish neighbor or whatever. So if he can't pick it up, what right do I have to pick it up? yes, I have a mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda, but even the owner says the chassan sofer can't move this item. Maybe he has to start figuring out some other way. Now, if I see Yankala and Shul, like I say, Yankala, by the way, I found your wallet. I assume you dropped before Shabbos. And that's on the ground. And then maybe he goes and tells someone who's not Jewish maybe to watch it. We've talked about it because that's his item. And the other things that we've talked about kick in. Right now, my wallet is missing. I know where it is, though. I can talk to the non-Jew. Non-Jew, can you carry it? I don't have a non-Jew. Okay, I can with pachos. The other things we talk about kick in, but I don't have any right to that. He can't really move it. So what right do I have to move it? Says the chassan sofer. Yeah.
Now I'm looking at this issue of loss again. I'm thinking of relaxes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But I know it's when I'm walking.
Right.
Oh my goodness. I think we lost this last night
Before Shabbos started, of course.
No one said, surely, said, oh my God, I lost this before.
So it matches up.
I know it's you. And so I look at it, can't I then say, well, wait a minute, there is a serious loss here. It's not to me, but can I take care of it then and there for my chavim, right?
Yeah.
I was just wondering, it was a question, it's not a.
Yeah, so it appears here that if it's not my loss, according to the chassan sofer, if it's not my loss, I can't. He says, by the way, if it was mutar lebalim atma lahagbia, it's the watch. I see the watch, and that looks like Rabbi Klinger's watch, and he was mentioning last night in shul where it was. One of my kids took it and did something with it, right? And then and then we found it, and of course you should pick it up, and it's a big mitzvah, by the way. Hashavas Aveda is a biblical mitzvah. Of course you should pick it up and return it to the rightful owner. If it's mutter for me to pick up, he says, of course you should pick it up and lahagbiah chayfetz avur acher for the other person. But it sounds like if I couldn't pick it up without any of these special heterim, other people are not allowed to pick it up to do this mitzvah.
Or to arrange these special heterim.
Or to arrange a special heterim, correct.
On your behalf.
On my behalf, correct. That's what it sounds like. Okay, so let's finish up here in the Mishnah Berurah. He quotes in the middle here, Sefer Elia Rabbah, Mekel al Yadei Eno Yehudi. So the Sefer Elia Rabbah is lenient through a non-Jew here. So remember I told you before non-Jew couldn't. So the Elia Rabbah said, okay, I'll see your prohibition and I'll raise you a head there. He says, I'll tell you it's okay. Ask a non-Jew to take it. Prima Gadam, and then the Prima Gadam actually quotes this statement from the Elia Rabbah. Rabbi Akiva Eger in his chidushim, right? He's also making gam ken al yedei eno Yehudi. He also says, well, you have $1,000. They asked the non-Jew, can you pick it up for me? But it's funny. It's like I don't understand. The non-Jew also has the equal rights to this $1,000. Like you must be a really good friend. The achdehu lo hekel ki im hagba al yedei eno Yehudi dehu rak tiltul be'ama. But he says, what can I tell the non-Jew though? I can only tell the non-Jew to pick it up. Pick it up. Why? Because he's violating a derabanan, muktzah. To me to tell him to start walking to my house, that's a daraisa. For walking dalad amos, rabim. So he says that if I'll allow it, you're gonna go nuts if I don't allow it. $5,000, you're just gonna walk right by. Fine, you can tell them your non-Jewish friend, neighbor, whatever, pick it up, please. Could you pick this up for me? But from there, you cannot tell him, walk it to my house, take it to my house. That's it. That's all the instructions I can give him. Hopefully that works out for you.
So you
right?
You can't tell him to hold it for you until you pick it up from him or whatever.
You could tell him to stand there and hold it for you until the end of Shabbos. But
you're not allowed to tell him that, you take it home and I'll pick it up from you.
Right. For him to tell him to even walk to his own house is a problem because I'm telling him to walk Daled Amos. Correct.
You see it down there and you say, look, there's a wallet down there. It has a lot of cash in it. I can't pick it up. If you pick it up, we'll split it.
Right. Right. Right now, this goes to BJ's point. By the way, he ends by saying, "Look, if the guy non-Jew decides, okay, I'll walk it to his house. I didn't tell him to do it. So near the end, no one's going to tell you to stop him. I don't have to tell him no. You don't do that, please. As we mentioned earlier. So this is that. By the way, of all the cases we've talked about, this is the most likely case of you find money on the ground on Shabbos. How many times we've talked about this? Right? There's a coin. Usually it's a coin. Usually it's not a $20 bill, right? But there's a quarter. Where we had this on Shabbos. You see a coin? Yeah. Oh, you did? Then you know you shouldn't do that. It's on YouTube now. Noah? Oh, okay. At least Noah gave it to you. Okay. Now both of them violated. Okay. So you'll remind Noah halacha is we don't pick it up if it's not if somebody's other money at Shabbos. So you could remember if you want. Remember where it was, and you can tell Abba after Shabbos. Oh, I saw a coin today. Can we go pick it up? You could stand there. By the way, that's not a problem either. If you want to stand there. And that's boring. Exactly. That's why I wouldn't recommend. You can't pick it up and stand in that spot. No. It's that when he says that, I feel imyamo tachta, meaning I picked it up and I'm just going to stand there. I'm going to stand in that spot. Yeah, I can't do that because of muktzah. I saw some discussions on. I don't want to get into this honestly. If you could stand on it, like put your foot on it for the rest of the Shabbos.
Stand there. Pick it up and hold it.
What was that, Shlomo?
What's the muktzah issue when you pick it up and hold it?
Touch it, the moving of muktzah, not touching muktzah, the moving.
You're lifting, you're not going up with it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Muktzah goes in all directions, side to side, up and down. Muktzah. That's an excellent point, by the way. When it comes to the prohibition of Mafir Dalad Amos, there needs to be a range that goes, side to side. Yes, that would require Dalad Amot in this direction, in moving. Up and down wouldn't matter in that situation. But when it comes to the Isra of Muktzah, up and down also is the problem.
Muktzah doesn't.
It's just because it's money.
Yeah, in this case, it's because it's money. Money is unusable on Shabbos, and therefore it falls into a special category of Muktzah. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you have something in your house that's muktzah, you can't do this.
Right, correct. You can't even move it an inch, centimeter, millimeter, correct.
If you need the space for some.
Okay, that's their head there. Right. In the space for something, there are going to be allowances. We will get to those laws. What was that? Yes, which one? Matzah Arniki or Asa Litlo? So Matzah Arniki, he says here, if you everyone take a look at the Be'er Halacha on the right-hand side. V'im avar v'higbio. He says, but what if I violate? I do pick it up. Right? I pick it up. I shouldn't have picked it up, but I picked it up. B'yireh al kolpanim achar kach litaltalo pachos b'dalad amos. So it appears to me that at that point I could do less, pachos me'arba amos. Why? I think he's trying to say, let's see if there is a reason here. By the way, so he says that my extra notes is that the Mishnah Berurah earlier did say in a similar case, Shlo hutar l'taltal chayfetz pachos v'dalad amos elayin came bali adam ibo jom. Considering the Mishnah Berurah in a different place, Paskin earlier in our simon, that if you didn't own it before Shabbos started, you cannot go pachos me'arba amos. So it's interesting here. He's quoting this. And,
this is b'diavad.
He says, "Al kolpanim as achar kach." Right now that why? Because the Isser of Muktzah has already been violated, and as long, I don't know why. Because it should be a problem. Because particularly once you stop, if you're doing pachos be'arba amos, I would assume that each time is a new violation of also Muktzah, because you're moving the object. It's interesting here that he quotes this. And then throw it in the door, as we talked about in the past.
What is it saying? Is
Maybe the answer, I'll tell you why, Steve. Because he's saying, maybe you're zochar. Maybe you've now acquired it by picking it up. And even though you shouldn't have done that, you violated maybe even two halachos there. One,
Right.
muktzah, and the second one is the acquisition of the money, which is a problem in of itself. Now that it's done, it's yours. Right?
Shabbos, how can you acquire it?
Even though you did it, you can sometimes, even though you do something wrong, there's discussions in halacha about this. Even if you do something wrong, you can still acquire something. right? It talks about in the beginning of the third parak of Sukkah about when you steal, if a person uses a stolen lulav, and certain things are if the owner ultimately gives up hope on finding it, it's mine. What do you mean? I stole it. It's the ultimate violation. I stole the lulav. So it's a machlokas. Then can I mitzvah baba avera? Can I use the lulav that came about through an avera? But you can still be able to. You could still technically acquire things, even though you violated prohibitions in the process of doing so.
Excuse me.
Right. Right. So he picks it up.
Now what can he do with it?
Now it's mine, actually. So now the claim here would be that the loss kick in, right? Because it's mine. And that's why he's saying you could do pachos. But I think that would be the theory. But it's interesting. He points out my extra biurim. Well, he'll take it and he'll throw it back. We talked about it last week. You get to the entrance because you don't want to. But you could go in 4, stop, 3 amot, stop, 3 amot, stop. You get to the door. Now, what do you mean? I have a biblical problem of going from Rishus Rabbim to Rishus Yachid. Just 5 centimeters. Got to be a problem, right? Because just going from those 2 Rishuyot is a problem. So what I do, I take it, I put it on, I throw it. I take it and put it on my wrist. I throw it like this into the door. Honey, you never guess what I got. That's here. He's mentioning it, but they point out in the biurim that I have here that the Mishnah Berurah didn't allow this earlier in a situation like this. So it's an interesting case. I think that's the theory behind it, though. Yeah, Simeon, go ahead. Here you go. Question. Go ahead.
Yes, Rav. If he actually picked it up, and he now has a kinyan with that wallet,
Yes.
does he not pick it up together with the obligation of Hashavas Aveda?
100%. If it's an identifiable, if the object is identifiable, if it's a, imagine let's like a little bag. You know how yesterday there was an offer here, like there was like the candy bags. They those. So there's a standard. They spill the candy for an offer. Imagine that you found $20 stuffed in one of those bags. There is no simon at all on that, and it'll be impossible to identify the owner. And so there's a presumption in that situation of Yerush Balim that if I lost it's true. If we lose $20, I was walking somewhere and I was walking around the streets, but can't find $20 anywhere. You could go and try to retrace your steps and drive, but most people are giving up. Yeah, maybe if it's a certain amount, amount. But so here the presumption of this case is that there's no mitzvah of Hashavas Laveda. If there's mitzvah of Hashavas Laveda, then you can't.
But
I'm going to speak to the nature of human beings. If there's the mitzvah of Hashavas Laveda and I know I can't keep it, people are going to be less likely to pick it up.
But even if it has identification on it, a monogram, a driver's license, a credit card, does the person that picked it up now, doesn't he have to hold on to it? Look, we just got through learning.
You're saying that's an interesting case. If I pick up the wallet, shouldn't have done it in the first place. I open it up. I'm excited about the cash, but there it is on the driver's license. There's a driver's license, and it says Nuriel Klinger. Yeah, I think now you have a conundrum because now you've picked it up. You don't own it. Certainly don't own it. You don't acquire the rights to this item. But now that you picked it up, it's an interesting question. Do you have to start to engage in the shmirah on this item?
That's correct. You have kinyan.
It's an interesting question. I want to think about it because there's you don't really acquire it to what's the heter here.
See the name, you have to return it.
My only question is, do you have to drop it though? But do you have to drop it because it's not really yours? The heterium that we talked about only kick in when it's your loss. And if the Baal, if the owner here, presumably a Jew, he can't pick up this wallet, what gives me the right to then continue to carry this wallet? The Jew who owned it, he might have, if he was carrying it, some special heterium. Let me think about it and get back to you on this one. That's a good question. I hear that there's now a mitzvah in play also. That's the only factor that's making me want to think about it for a little bit.
Well, when you picked it up in the first instance, there was no.
There was no heter.
No, that's exactly
Right, that's why
You already
my
did
gut,
one violation.
my gut says,
Already were there,
right, my gut says that you don't. I think you probably have to drop it, and you should go tell the uncle or whoever it was. They're like, hey, by the way, I saw your wallet. By the way, I meant to pick it up and actually take it, but I saw it was yours, so I dropped it. It was,
Nice, right?
yeah, right. So,
Can't carry it.
That's
So
the point.
that's my point. That's why I say I
Supposed
think
to be just standing there for the rest of Shabbos.
that's why I'm.
Yeah, but still, it just.
That's why I'm saying I think maybe you have to drop it, and you'll tell the fellow, hey, by the way, I found your wallet.
You throw muksa into this. I mean, because look at the situation, not in downtown Manhattan, but you're walking along, you see a wallet there. Oh my goodness, this probably has a lot of dough in it. And I'm just going to kick it to the side over the bush or under something over here, and after Shabbos, I'll come back and get it. But tell you, no, you can't do that.
No,
We're not gonna
there's
allow
there's no
the-
head there for even tiltul min hatzad, like where you
That's
kick it. Yeah,
And I think that's really weird, because I could see that happen.
yeah,
Very likely, I know I can't pick it up, I'm gonna.
I'll kick it over to the side where,
No, can't do that, we're
Right.
both in.
yeah. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of this very lengthy and interesting siman. And let's hope that these situations are not ones we find ourselves in. When Shabbos starts, we're in the right place. Our stuff is in the right place. Now we're going to.
Mules rest.
That's
so they're
right.
not carrying
That's
burdens.
right. The donkeys are in the, are taking a nap already. Shabbos menucha. So we moved out to Reish Samach Zayin. So if you need a new sheet, there are sheets over here, new sheets for the have the next few simanim. I don't know if you had, Jen.
It's here.
Okay. So this is how it turns that we've gotten ready for Shabbos. Now there's one more thing we got to do before Shabbos starts, which basically something for most of us when we do this, we're already in like Shabbos mode. The header of this siman to Reish Samach Zayin, this evening tefillah be'erev Shabbos. We have 3 seifim here, so it's a little shorter. Betfilas hamincha be'erev Shabbos, ain't no flin al peneihem. So at mincha on erev Shabbos, we don't fall on our faces. Now, if no one has any context on this one, it sounds a little strange. No flin al peneihem is, of course, as someone has said, the tachnun. There's no, when we do after Shmona Esrei at Shachris and mincha, we're supposed to fall on our face. Tachanun comes from the idea that we're desperately crying out to God to accept our prayers. We daven formally, but now it's almost like a very serious plea. It's a very heavy, almost tearful experience. That's really what Tachanun is. But also know that Tachanun is not an obligatory prayer. And therefore, there are times when Tachanun is set aside. If the moment doesn't match that tefillah. Tefillah is a very desperate cry out kind of situation. So on a very simple level, before we talk about this, if this morning we didn't say Tachanun here, why not? There was a chastan who was with us. So if
But he is not married.
so it's a machlokas, by the way, on the day of, you should know, it's a machlokas. On the day of the wedding, do you not say Tachanun? Do you say Tachanun if you're in the presence of the soon-to-be chassan, right? So our minhag here
It's
is
not a machloket.
no, in this shul, any opportunity to say you do not say Tachanun. The Yard said Moshe Rabbeinu. There was Chabad has a day of the year for the Rebbe got out of prison. I forget which day of the year. Not this Rebbe, but what was that?
Last week.
Oh, it was last week, right? He got out of prison. No Tachanun. There are other days when there's no Tachanun. People. My Rebbe once remarked that Tachanun, the laws of Tachanun are very much like the laws of Pas Akum, the laws of bread baked by a non-Jew. So when we were learning those laws, when this came up, where it was like any small thing is a heter for eating the Jew baked by a Jew. A Jew turned on the oven. A Jew moved the bread. Okay, whatever. It's good. It's good. No. similar to any opportunity for no tachanun, people are happy to take
What
it.
is the machloket?
So he didn't have his wedding yet. So some people say, oh no, he said this is the day. But at the end of the day, until the ring is on the finger, nothing's accomplished yet. So it's machlokas about that. Our shul will make it on that question. So, but you read on an Erev Shabbos, like at any other holiday, right? If it's, let's say, Chol Hamoed Pesach, Chol Hamoed Sukkot, we don't say tachon. Forget it. Not even a question. Rosh Chodesh, we don't say tachon. It's a day of joy and celebration. Therefore, the avira doesn't match the tefillah of tachon. Okay, so just like that. So on Erev Shabbos, we also don't say tachon. We don't say tachon. Take a look at the Sifkat on Aleph.
So this is an optional. Tachanun is optional on the
It's
prayer.
I would say it's not. I Dafka said it the other way. I said it's not an obligation. Meaning, if there is a situation where the day doesn't fit, we don't say it. But otherwise, we say it. That's a very strong minhag Yisrael. We say tachanun. By the way, I know tachanun gets a bad rap. It's actually quite a nice tefillah. If we actually look what it talks about and says, it's not bad to say tachanun. I know Monday and Thursday it's an exhausting, marathon, but somehow it always ends in 3 minutes. I don't understand how that works. I only have I ask questions. That's all. But yes, that's why here let's feel like we set aside. We can't be like, well, because it's a certain day, we're not going to recite. I don't know what's. Trying to think what's another tefillah that we might say that. Lam Nasech we don't say sometimes. It's just true, and that way for a very similar reason. Lam Nasech is it's a cry out. That tefillah, that parak of Tehillim is a cry out to God. That's a real and you're davening in an Eis Sarah. So on certain days we don't say it. Chol Hamoed being a good example also. But whatever. So it's not like Shemon Esrei. Well, this particular bracha doesn't fit today. I don't say no. Every bracha of the Shemon Esrei is obligated. So here we don't say it. Tachanun ein noflim ibnei shu samuch lachnas al Shabbos. Close to the entrance of Shabbos. Kein kastav halavush. This is what the lavush writes. The kastav Pri Megadim writes v'nira dehu adin kishem mispal mincha gedola achar chatzos nami ein noflim al pneim. I used to daven, by the way, mincha gedola on Fridays when I was a student at YU. We had a half a day on Friday morning, and then there was a mincha that was available literally at the earliest moment of mincha gedola. It's 30 halachic minutes after Hatzot, after the midpoint of the day, and I would daven, and that way when it really actually helped me quite a bit because I would go to shul and I would walk in and it was Kabbalah Shabbos. I'd have to rush for mincha. Actually, here on Fridays, by the way, I don't ever go, but at seasons they have a mincha that's early. It's totally fine, of course, to daven that, and you don't say tachanun still, even though it's not like here we daven mincha, and then we start singing Yedid Nefesh when mincha's over.
Shiva, when we did mincha during the whole week, nobody ever said tachanun. At the end at the end of shiur, we never said tachanun. Never. I never saw anybody do it. And and I was talking to Rabbi Morgenstern about it. And this was I was talking to Rabbi Morgenstern about it. Well, yeah, regular day. Because there's something to say. You're in the Beit Medrash or whatever.
You're engaged in this.
Yeah.
When I was at YU, they loved saying tachanun. It took a long time.
We would finish, and then all of a sudden somebody did, and you were out. I mean,
Wow, that's fascinating.
Never saw it.
Wow.
I don't remember.
I don't recall that my experience of that. That's fascinating.
I once heard a very lengthy shir by one of my rebbeim, Rabbi Aaron Kahn, about Tehillim Parak Vav, and that it's a cry out for your own life.
Right.
You're pleading for your life, and it has to be taken very, very seriously. Otherwise, your plea for your life isn't taken seriously.
Right.
And so unless you're in a situation where you really can concentrate on it and really know what you're doing, you don't do it.
So you're saying it's better to skip.
It's better to skip.
Wow. That's tachanun. It's Tehillim Parak Vav.
Yeah, right. But the other thing is that also use that somebody who's got a serious illness.
Mhm.
That's one that was a go-to.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Very
just
serious.
it's Sfardim don't say
Very, very
if you don't say tachanun, you don't say lam natzeh.
Correct.
It's 100% connected, right? In Ashkenazim, we don't have 100% connection.
Yeah.
It's just, Tachanun really gets a bad rap amongst Ashkenazim.
You always have to.
Yeah, what does it say? What does it say in the instructions?
You don't say toxin in the base of it, right?
Yeah, that's for a different reason. Yes. Yeah, because that's
They don't tie it together.
how you davening, you're pleading for your life. But literally, what happened here? We're talking about it's too raw.
Right, right.
Hold them away.
Yeah, so, but the seriousness of toxin is often, overlooked and.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
You don't say it on Erev Yom Tov either,
Yes.
but you do say it on Erev Rosh Chodesh.
No, if it's Erev Rosh Chodesh, Mincha, you don't say no. For the generally speaking, the mincha leading into something, we don't say it before. Yeah, this fits that rule.
Unless it's Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur.
Correct.
Erev Rosh Hashanah, Erev Yom Kippur.
Very-
You do say it.
Correct on the Erev, yes. So, again, you see, Richie knows all the exceptions to the rule. So, anyways, here, even if you're davening mincha gedola, you still don't do tachanun. V'chein mi she'ochel pas achar chatzos. Now, let's see who's holding this halacha. Let's say you have bread after chatzos. You're having lunch. At a certain point, by the way, we're going to learn in Hilchot Shabbat coming up that you're not supposed to have a bread meal at a certain point in the afternoon. But let's say it's right after chatzos. You're having lunch, and you're going to bench. So gam kain ein lomar al naharos babel. I don't know how many. I admit here, I'll be the first one at the table. I don't say al naharos babel. Maybe I should say al naharos babel. I'm always in a rush during the weekdays, running from this class to that class in school. And I don't say al naharos babel, but it's a parak of Tehillim that many say before they bench. So I'm not supposed to say that at that point. What should I say? Hi'im shir hamalos. Once you're not saying tachanun, what goes along with it is I don't say al naharos babel, and if I'm not saying al naharos babel, I should say shir hamalos. Okay, so this is just a general. It's a minhag. I wouldn't even call this halacha. Shir hamalos and al naharos babel. It's not you won't find that in the Gemara. No one talks about that. It's a minhag. It's a nice idea. One is the more al naharos babel on the rivers of Babylon, right? It's a little more somber. And Shir Hamalos, what was that?
It's also a Shir Hamalos.
That's true. And Shir Hamalos Shuv Hashem, it talks about the dreams of returning to Zion. Anyways, it's a little more uplifting. So that's what we do during those times. Okay.
Right.
Then he quotes here Ayin Be'er Halacha. Take a look in the Be'er Halacha. All that he says here in the Be'er Halacha is that there's a machlokes here, but we quote the Prima Garden that he already quoted, and then he says the Gra says shekasa makor ladin hashulchan aruch. The source of this halacha comes from Moed Katan le'inyan zakifas hamita, the turning down of the beds on Erev Shabbos. That if you're at Avel during the week of Avel, this particular certain halacha in terms of the turning down the beds, which something we don't do today. It's not one of our nihuge avelos today, but they wouldn't do this on Erev Shabbos in the afternoon. So therefore, we learn from this that we shouldn't say tachanun either. Anyways, some say here that it's from mincha katana, but we don't move from our psak halacha that it's even mincha gedola. From mincha gedola on, we don't say tachanun, and that's again by every Erev Yom Tov as well. Okay, now let's take a look at. Sorry, Simeon, did you have a question? I thought you were about to say something. Maybe
I just wanted to point out that the halachas is very time sensitive to where we are and what we're doing, and the great example of that is a kavura on Yom HaShishi.
Yes.
When you
go
go
bring
to
up Tziduk Hadin.
yeah.
Oh, you're like my extra comments here on the side, number 3, by the way, at the bottom. I'm not going to go into it inside, but correct. If you're a funeral that happens after Chatzos, there is no Tel Male, and there's also no Tziduk Hadin. Tziduk Hadin is a very lengthy piece that's written about Tziduk Hadin. It's the accepting what God has brought about in our lives as the Avelim. And so we don't say this because it doesn't fit the spirit of Arab Shabbos. We have other things that we might say as substitutes, but the Kaddish is different. We don't say the lengthy Kaddish. We say regular mourner's Kaddish in that situation. Correct. So there are other halachos that on Erev Shabbat, other parts of our liturgy that change on Erev Shabbos as well in the case of a funeral. Absolutely correct, Simon. Okay, let's take a look here at Sif Beis. The Shulchan Aruch continues, Makdimin lispal arvis yosem b'yamos hachol. So we should try to make Marv as early as we can, certainly more earlier than we do during the rest of the week. Okay, that's an interesting halacha. Why would we do this? We'll get to that in a second. Uveplag hamincha yochol lahadlik ulekabel Shabbos v'tfilas arvis. From the page, v'le'echol miyad. V'ayin le'el soon reish lamed gimel ketzad misharim shir plag hamincha, which we all talked about a few years ago. Those of us who were part of the shir a few years ago, how to measure plag hamincha. Anyone remember? So I give you an A+ on your report cards at the end of the semester. It's so plag hamincha is 10 and 3/4 hours.
10 hours before.
Simeon passes the test. Very good. 10 and 3/4 hours of the day. Right, hour quarter before Shkia. And of course, you have to use Shaos Vanios. So you have to figure out. It's an hour and a quarter before Shkia, according to halachos to Shaos Manios. So it depends on the day. In the summer, Shaos Manios is longer than 60 minutes. In the winter, it's shorter. But an hour and a quarter halachic hours before the end of the day is plag hamincha. So you should try to daven. So at that point, you can accept Shabbos in multiple ways. Number one, candle lighting. This is actually a very important halacha that you have to be careful with. In some communities, like the one I grew up in, on Friday night, we daven mincha right before plag, and Kabbalah Shabbos began right after plag hamincha. Okay, because in Columbus, Ohio, we were on the western part of the Eastern time zone. If we waited until Shkia, we'd be eating it to 10 o'clock at night. It's not so great here either. If you wait till Shkia, you're talking about 9 o'clock at night, but it's even worse there. We'll talk about this magic zman called 7 p.m. It's an interesting halachic quandary, which has far-reaching acceptance in the American modern Orthodox Jewish community, but has it's standing on very shaky ground. I'm admitting that we do it here in our shul. The more halachically, the better practice halachically, which is going to be talked about here, is davening mincha before plag and then mariv after plag, because then you hasten the beginning of Shabbos. Anyways. This will be, you have to experience more Shabbos. More Shabbos is better in halacha. And also you in our situation in the summer, you are eating your Shabbos meal at a time when you will enjoy it more.
Is there a limit to starting Shabbat early?
Yes. So plag hamincha is, he says here, that's when you can light candles. So even if, let's say there's a mincha, that's what my point was going to be, like, there's a mincha minyan. Shul calls mincha for 6:30. Plag is 6:45. The wife says, goodbye, honey, enjoy mincha mariv. Okay, what? And she goes over to light the candles. You can't do that. She's lighting too early now. You cannot light until after plag. What happens on a typical Shabbos in the winter, right, which is right before Shkia. So I'll say, have a good Shabbos, my family. And my wife is like in the midst of like lighting the candles. That makes sense. But in the summer, if you're davening at plag, the husband leaves, in the typical example, and the wife's going to go light. No, that's not okay because she's lighting too early. Plag is the earliest time. That's the earliest time you can daven mariv, and then you can eat immediately also after that time. That is an important halacha. I'm going to share with you a trick that we can't do in this community, but if you ever find yourself in a different situation, that where sometimes you can eat before you daven, okay? Which may help in terms of the timing of certain things. Usually you're not allowed to daven and eat until you daven. But you could, in theory, eat at plag hamincha, make kiddush, accept Shabbos and all that, light candles, and then you could end up davening later. So we'll talk about that. But yes,
Have you looked at the Shulchan Aruch on this? I'm just curious. Why don't Hasidim don't do this?
davening early. They daven late.
They daven late. They don't bring in Shabbat early. And, he says clearly you should do this here. And I'm
Yeah.
just wondering why is it they don't do this? And it just, right, when it's clear here, it'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah,
right?
I don't have a copy. I could probably look it up on I wonder if they have already in
But that's
Safari
what-
Bar
that's
Ilan.
what- it's what I think
You do?
after
Yeah, I
everyone
wonder
else-
what he
Well,
said.
that may go back to a little bit of the Rabbeinu Tam. If you remember that they hold the Rabbeinu Tam also on the front end of Shabbos.
Back and-
And so they don't want to accept, that could be the potential explanation here, is that they have a calculation of Plag HaMincha that-
Different time, the time.
I'd say
that may go from, that where the end point, as you're counting the Shabbos Manios.
That's not with them, but no, but
Right.
still, I mean, it's not, but they don't bring Shabbat early. It's different. on
Right.
Pesach, Right, it's
Yeah.
different on Yom Tov.
Yeah, I that's an interesting question. That's
But
an
you
interesting
know,
question.
Here, 7 o'clock.
Oh, we're gonna have a lot to talk about 7
On
o'clock.
the longest day, plug is 1 or 2 minutes after 7. So you can, starting mincha, you always end up saying Kabbalat Shabbat after plug.
Right, but most of the time, we're davening,
The mincha is also after that.
it's between Plag and Shkia, and we're davening Mar with Plag and Shkia. I'm gonna try to justify it, because there are those who justify it. And I want to assure you, we are not the only shul that does this. There are many shuls in the summertime. This is the minhag. There are also some shuls though that they daven around Plag in the summertime. They switch to davening around Plag. I grew up in a shul like that.
But some shuls are daven at 6:45.
Why? Because they want to solve this problem.
Right.
Yes. So we're gonna get to this. I don't, maybe not today. But what time is it? 6:36. Okay, so let's just for a couple more moments and then we'll stop. So take a look here at Mishnah Berurah Sifkat on base Makdimin. So he says here, supposed to bring in Shabbos a little bit early. So Mishum Dahave Nehige Alma Lekabel Alahem Shabbos Bichipat Mikipata Chashlech Baruch. That the practice of the world, the Jewish world, was to accept Shabbos when the Shliach Tzibur says the words Baruch Hu. Now we've talked about already before that today when we say Mizmor Shili Yom HaShabbos, that's already an acceptance of Shabbos. They didn't have Kabbalah Shabbos, but Tefillah called Kabbalah Shabbos in the time of the Shulchan Aruch. Came a little bit later with the Kabbalists in Tzfat. Anyways, so this was the practice. So therefore, they would daven Ma'ariv earlier. Therefore, because they want to bring in Shabbos early, and the way they would tend to start Shabbos, their practice was beginning Shabbos through davening, being Baruch Hu. We're going to explore that that's obviously not the only way you can start Shabbos. I mean, very simply, you could also just say the words, it's Shabbos, and that's good, right? But that was their minhag, that to do Shabbos would start with the tefillah, and so therefore, we need to move davening up, right? No, it can't be earlier than Plag HaMincha, but we need to move davening up because we want to take in Shabbos. Of course, you can accept Shabbos before davening Ma'ariv. That is absolutely a possibility. And and certainly today we do it before Baruch Hu, because we have we generally say that we accept Shabbos at Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos when we're davening Kabbalah Shabbos. Okay, so that is sorry. Yes, Timmy, go ahead. You have a question.
Well, it seemed to me that he said Baruch Hu, which can only be said with a minyan. So it seems to me that there's a suggestion here that the entire community have the minhag to start Shabbos together.
Oh, certainly ideal. I mean, that's a discussion about the obligation of davening with a minyan or not. But it also gets into the discussion. I mean, where this is relevant, it goes back number of weeks now, about what happens if the tzibur starts. What happens to the rest of the people who aren't in the shul? Do they have to start Shabbos against their will? And perhaps if the majority of the community has begun Shabbos, it's fair to say, halachically, that everybody else has now Shabbos on their heads as well. We talked about how that plays out in our scenario where we live in lots of bigger communities where people have different minyanim and whatnot, and how that plays out. But look at that.
Say, I'm gonna go daven late by the.
I'll go exactly. Yeah, there's another minion in town, so I'll go to the other minion. But it used to look. There are still places where like it's one minion town, where there's Jews used to live in smaller villages and shtetlich, and there was one shul, and when the shul davened, everybody davened. Like, that wasn't. There was no question. Everybody was doing Shabbos at the same time. Let's take a look at Gimel, and I think with this will come to a close. Mashma midivrei haMagen Avram. It appears from the words of the Magen Avram. Afilu hanogin lehispalal ma'ariv bismana mutarim lehispalal b'leil Shabbos v'ojon. I'm going to explain. Now, generally, we've talked. This goes back a few years already. We talked about that the psak halacha generally on the evening is the fourth parak of brachos. The Gemara's psak is that between the machlokas of Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim about the timing of mincha and mariv, they have an argument, right? Rabbi Yehuda says you could daven mincha until plag mincha, which is 10 3/4 hours, which was the time. It's very significant. Corresponds to the time when, historically speaking, the korban tamid shel ben harabayim, the afternoon korban tamid was already done. It was already offered. Technically, halachically, it could have been offered until Shkia, but historically speaking, they put into play and put into practice to do the mincha by that time. So he says mincha should be done by then, and then at that point you could have marv. Marv corresponds to the cleanup of the mizbeach, and the chacham say no. Halachically, you can do this till shkia, so mincha can be till shkia, and then marv can begin at that point, sunset. So even if the rest of the week you were davening mincha marv staggered around shkia, it's okay on Friday night, you change your practice. And you say, well, I'm going to follow Rabbi Yehuda. Because the psak halacha of the Gemara was avad kamar avad, avad kamar avad. You follow this opinion, shkoyach. You follow that opinion, shkoyach. Just stay consistent. Try to follow one approach. But if I follow the approach of davening, mincha up until shkia, but on Friday night, now I'm davening marv in that time slot. So it's not a problem, he says here. As long as it's obviously marv has to be after plag. There's no such opinion of marv before plag. Why? How does he justify this halach? He says because you're adding from the weekday from the mundane to the holy. Ukvar kibel Shabbos alav, and you've accepted Shabbos. And therefore you can rely on the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who says this is like Laila with regards to Tefillah. So this justifies right off the bat what many Jews do, which is that during the week they're davening mincha marv, at whatever time of sunset is, but then they're davening marv much earlier time the rest of the week. Forget the whole 7 o'clock issue. They're davening marv earlier, and so this is not an issue at all because why? It's now Shabbos. Because of the acceptance of Shabbos, it's almost like now it's nighttime. Like it's enough for me to now rely on the other opinion that I could daven after Plag HaMincha. Now he continues here. He says, "Ach hanohe ken yizar al kol panim be'erev Shabbos lehisfal mincha kodem Plag HaMincha." He says, if you're going to do this, you should be cautious and careful to daven mincha before Plag HaMincha, before 10 3/4 hours. Why? Because otherwise you'll have two things that are in logical contradiction to one another. Explains. According to Rabbi Yehuda in the Gemara, if you're going to follow Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, daven marv after Plag HaMincha, well, Rabbi Yehuda says you can only daven mincha until Plag HaMincha. And then it's davening marv, it's marv time. Uladas Rabbanon, Zman Mincha who had Sofayom, Uzman Marv who ba'erev. The Rabbanon say you could daven Mincha until nighttime, until sunset, and then after that you could daven Marv. So if you're going to daven Mincha between Plag and Shkia, you're following Rabbi Yehuda you're following the Rabbanon for Mincha, but then for Marav, you're following Rabbi Yehuda. That doesn't work. It's not even about picking and choosing here. You can't logically follow one for one and then the other for the, it doesn't actually make any sense. Either this time is a time for Mincha or it's a time for Marav. It can't be a time for both. And that's why he insists that if you're going to do this, you're going to daven Mincha before Plag. V'yesh omrim de b'tzibur. This is where the 7 o'clock heter comes from. V'yesh omrim, there are those that say, and this is the opinion of the Derech HaChaim. Nobody knows his name. Nobody knows that. No, now you know. Nobody ever knows more. So the Derech HaChaim is of the opinion, de b'tzibur, in the context of community, yesh lehakel lehispal marav mi'ojom afim hispal mincha achar plag mincha. He says 7 o'clock at minyanim are allowed in the context of community. First of all, what? What does that have to do with the tzibur? What does that even mean? So take a look at the Be'er Halacha. He says Ubeplag Mincha, the second comment of the Be'er Halacha on this siman. This is from the commentary of the Derech Chaim. Mitam, what's the reason? He says, look, Lamaisa folks, there are communities that are davening at 7 o'clock every day. They're doing it on the weekdays. Just forget Shabbos. They're doing it on the weekdays. They're doing it on the weekdays. Alachas Kama V'Kama Friday night. Why are they davening like this? Why are they doing this? Because at the end of the day, this is when they can get a minyan. It's when they can get a minyan. It's when they can get people together to daven. Otherwise, it's too late. It's too early. This is a sweet spot that I'm able to cobble together 10 men above the age of 13. I'll call upon him. So, I'll call upon him. Yesh lismoch alehem al hai tama be'erev Shabbos. Ad kam l'shon. So I said, look, at least for erev Shabbos, I'm telling he's not agreeing that they should do this during the weekdays. Okay, you want to do it on Friday night? Now, why Friday nights might you have a different svara and say, okay, we'll rely on it. 7 o'clock, we'll let it fly. Why would we say this? And by the way, he goes on to say, as a side point, he says, no other Achronim mentioned this kula at all. This, you shouldn't do this. You should daven before Plag, do mincha before Plag, yada, yada, yada. He destroys this practice, okay? But why might we want to justify it? And it comes down to what I believe is a comment of the Aruch HaShulchan that he didn't even mean in this context. I actually remembered this comment. When I was learning my last year smicha, I took on myself in the morning for morning seder. I took on learning Hilchot. It was morning seder. I think it was more. I think it was morning. No. Sorry, it was the year we were learning Hilchot Shabbos in my regular year, and I tried to learn extra parts of Hilchot Shabbos. And I remember this Aruch HaShulchan, but I incorrectly remember the context. He justifies saying that even if during the rest of the week you daven mincha during that period between Plag and Shkia, it's not a contradiction. Because of the concept of Tosefes Shabbos. Tosefes Shabbos, here's my way of trying to justify the 7 p.m. I'm justifying, so I'm not saying this is lechatchila. Is that the concept of Tosefes Shabbos is so strong, halachically, that it's as if you've made it dark outside. And what's my further proof going to be? And we're going to discuss this in this a little bit in this siman, that I'm allowed to a kiddush, which is a mitzvah d'oraisa. Before
Friday night.
If I daven early, Friday night I can make kiddush. The Gemara talks about it. I'm allowed to make kiddush on Friday night before it's dark. What do you mean? It's a biblical mitzvah. I shouldn't have to do it on the correct day. Okay, then I accept the Shabbos early. I can always take on the laws early, but I make kiddush. That's a biblical mitzvah. And they am allowed to do that. And actually, the first tshuva of the shilas and tshuvos of the blanking right now. Why am I blanking? He has a tshuva for each day of the year. embarrassed. I wrote a paper in grad school on the Shas and Chuvos. I'm blanking on it. The first Chuva is a Sefer, not Sefer Truma, is the okay, it's bothering me. It'll come back to me. But he writes that he was talking about the, Austria, in a particular town in Austria. They would daven, they would go home, they would eat, finish the meal, and then there was a minhag of the Jews in this particular town in Austria. They would walk along the riverbank, the boardwalk, whatever it was there in this town. There was still daylight out, and the first tshuva was the first shiloh that this in the sefer the sefer was. What's going on? How could you say Kriya Shema? How could you all these things so early? But when it comes to Kiddush and even eating your meal, you can. There's a minhag in the Sefer Hasidim who said a passage in the Sefer Hasidim that says you should try to eat a little bit after dark. You'll eat a little after dark, but it's from the Sefer Hasidim. This is like a very pious minhag. Me'ikar Hadin, if you finished your meal, you could bench and go for a walk. It's not a problem. Wow. So maybe the answer to the 7 o'clock piece is that the idea of Tosefes Shabbos, of adding the Shabbos, is so powerful that the moment that I declare it's Shabbos, even if I'm in the same time period, it's like it's already nighttime. Now, I'm not telling you that it's the best practice, but it is the practice that many, many shuls have. I'm doing my best to give the halachic justification for it. Again, why 7 o'clock became a magical time? I don't know. Did that when those of you who've been in the shul for many, many years, has that been the minhag since you moved here?
Yes.
Right. So this goes back to the
40 years.
I'm trying to think back. I don't know that it was the minhag always at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
It did start
In
during
the
the
summer.
time, but not 40 years ago. 45 years ago.
Rabbi
Riley
Ruby
was here also.
No, I wasn't here then.
Yeah, no.
Rabbi
So I'm
Ruby
saying, I don't know
was.
that we've always done.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to remember. I don't know that.
Okay. Well, if you could dig up an old bulletin from those days. Anyways, we will pause here, and we'll continue the discussion of eating early, and a suggestion that my Rebbe made to me, which I can't do because I'm a rabbi in a shul, and we have 1 minute in here, so it's actually kind of complicated. But my Rebbe lives in Teaneck, and a very clever solution to the summer about eating at a certain time and then being able to daven. Actually, afterwards, we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about the change in the bracha of Hashkivenu. When we daven on Friday night, the bracha of Hashkivenu has a few changes. Right. The end of the bracha and even a line right before that. So we'll talk about the change that's in the bracha. Then we're going to go on to what happens when you make a mistake in Shemona Esrei. You start saying the weekday Shemona Esrei on Friday nights or on any of Shabbos.
I did that.
So you'll come next week too. Okay. Take care. Yes.